Okay, today I'm going to show you how you can configure weapons for the Advanced Loot Chests mod. I'm going to start with everything blank. I deleted all the presets, so I'm doing a separate video on weapons because weapons can be quite complicated with all the attachments and magazines, so I want to make a dedicated video on it. And let's start by adding a preset. So last time we had the chest configs, the bunker chests and the stashes, so we are going to work with them. You can also use your own stashes or whatever chests you already set up. Doesn't really matter for this case. So we go into the loadout editor and start by adding a preset we want to add to the bunker chest. Let's call it preset bunker chest to be able to spawn the things in there later. Now let's start with a simple weapon and just a magazine in there, and we're going to add an item. Search for like the AKS 47U, so this one, and we're just going to want to add a magazine to it. So we add a new item, and we can actually stay here and find attachments, and then we are going to check for the mags. We have this 30 round mag. Now we have this one and this one. And to now add the mag to the AK, we're going to click on add here and select the item, and then we have the magazine here, and you can now double click the magazine to skip to it. And we need to make sure to spawn this as magazine, otherwise it's not going to be properly attached or not even spawn at all. So we have the AK here, can also add a buttstock. Let's use the default item one. So this will bring us back to the item selection. Let's find the attachment and use the normal buttstock for it. And we want to select this one. Now it's going to spawn the buttstock and the mag. Let's check the mag again. It's set as magazine. And to now add this to our preset, we click on add and search for our items which we have configured, and then we select the AK here. And we also have the individual spawn chance here enabled, so it will always spawn. And we need to make this route to show up in our menu to select it later. And we also wanted to have individual spawn chance enabled. So we can save it, and we can also go to our chest config and add it here. And now we can either go to the chest and check them all, or we're going to make our lives a bit easier. Go back to the loadout editor and we select a preview container. And in here, we're going to look for our military crate, and now it's displaying our military crate here. And now we can double click on our preset to add it to our test, and can reload, and we can see nothing is spawning. So let's see, we have our bunker chest, only wanted to spawn one. And then we have our AK, and this spawns anywhere. So that should already work. What happens if we spawn it in cargo? Okay, now it's spawning in here. I think the attachment slot is not properly updating, seems like. So now when we spawn it in cargo, let's check if we spawn it as attachment. Yeah, it's not properly updating it. It's probably spawning in here. Let's spawn this twice. Yeah, it's something with the attachment slot. So spawn it in cargo, reload. Now it's also spawning twice because I added it twice in here. So we can reload. It's just spawning the AK, and it's also loading the magazine and the bullet. And yeah, that's basically how you can simply spawn a weapon with an attachment. And you can do a bit more than that, but that's really, really basic. So let's do another item. Let's do the M4. Let's search for the M4A1. And now I want to spawn a few attachments, like I want to have the buttstock and the handguard and also a magazine, and we can also add like a flashlight. to do this, I'm just going to do very simple, without any randomness or anything else. Just add the item, and we can use the default thing again. So we don't have to clutter our item list in here. If we just want to have a very, very simple item, let's use the Stanek mag. And this one, we need to select the mag. So this one is spawning as a mag. So we don't have to add all the items on top here, and to keep the list a little more clean. And we also want to add for find attachment. Let's do an ACOG optic. And this one we want to select individual. So this one, otherwise we only spawn with one attachment, but we want to have multiple attachments. And then we add new thing. Let's do the CQB buttstock and also individual one. Then add the default item, and where's this handguard? And we want to add a default item, the flashlight. I think that's this one. Let's check. Yeah, it's this one. And we also want to spawn it with a battery. So this is a special preset with battery and individual chance. So yeah, that's basically our M4 done. It's always going to spawn all these attachments, and we're going to add this one to our preset now. And now we should see the AK individual chance enabled. This one individual chance is enabled. And let's test this again. Oh yeah, it's now it's trying to spawn the M4 as cargo. Okay, as an attachment. And now in cargo we're just having this one. We have both weapons spawning. And later I'm going to show you in another video how you can, for example, choose one random weapon. But let's start with a bit more complicated setup. So let's use the AKM for this one. And now we're going to spawn it with a random mag and random attachments. So with the M4 we had always 60 round mag and always the ACOG optic and all the other stuff on there. And now with the AKM, we're going to change things a bit. And let's see, we have the buttstock and the handguard, and we have maybe a suppressor and I think 2 different magazines. So let's start with the magazines. We need to make a new preset for this, and we call it AKM mags. Make sure individual chance is enabled, so we always spawn in exactly one mag. And now let's see, when we use the default, can we use like 30 round mag? So magazine, I'm not quite sure if this is individual chance. Let's test it out. So it would be easier if we couldn't just do this. Otherwise we have to configure the item here first. So let's also do find attachment, the drum mag, spawn it as mag. So if this has individual chance disabled, both, it will spawn one of them. So let's see. We need to add this as a sub preset, otherwise we're not going to spawn any mags. And in our bunker chest, we can now add our item, the AKM. And also spawn it in cargo, otherwise it's not going to spawn. So seems like we are always getting the 30 round mag. I'm always reloading, so the individual chance is enabled for the mags. So we have to do it a bit different. So we go to the AKM mags back and we delete these two, and we have to manually add them. So the 30 round mag and the drum mag. So now we have to disable individual chance. So we always spawn exactly one of them when we add them to this sub preset. So we can already add them, add this one and this one. So we have both of them and both with individual chance enabled. So it will pick exactly one, and we want the normal mag to spawn more often than the 70 round mag, 75 round mag. So yeah, that's basically already it. We already have the AKM mags in here. Oh, and we need to make sure to spawn this as magazine. So let's test, hit reload. Yeah, and now sometimes we are getting the 75 drum round mag, and most of the time we are getting the 30 round mag. Okay, so that's already working fine. So let's go back to our AKM. We have a few different attachments, like for the buttstock and for the handguard. Let's do this next. We again need to create a new preset, and then we're going to call this AKM handguards and have this enabled. And to now add the handguards, we are just going to do the simple find attachments. Now we have the wooden handguard. Let's use this one. And we don't want to have it individual charts. We want to have the normal one. So it's going to pick one out of our list. And again, the handguard, I think there should be a few more. The rail handguard and the plastic one. So let's do the plastic. And default item, let's do the rail handguard. Oh, there it is. So we have the 3 different handguards now. We go back to our AKM and add our preset, the AKM handguards. And now we should see a random handguard spawning. Now the rail, the plastic, rail, and the wooden one. Okay, they are all spawning, perfect. And now to the buttstocks, the same thing here. Buttstock. And individual chance enabled, don't forget this one. And now we do the same thing here, the wood buttstock, this one, and default item. Which buttstock do we have? The AK buttstock. Then we also have the folding buttstock. And I think there are a few more we can add. Also search for it. I don't think we had this one. No, we had the AK-74 wood buttstock and now the normal buttstock. Okay, now we have all the 4 buttstocks in here. We have our preset, and then in the AKM one we add our preset, our buttstock. I should have called this AKM buttstock, and now we have to add this again here, otherwise it's not going to find it. So if you rename anything in here, it's not going to rename it here. Okay, now we're spawning with our different buttstocks and with the different mags. And now a very simple one. Let's spawn a suppressor, the AK suppressor, and we only want to have it like 30% of the times. And when we hit reload, we see sometimes we are also getting a suppressor. So that's very nice. You can also do it for the scopes now. So the PSO1 I think is also going to fit, the Cobra optic and some others. But I think with mags and handguards, you've already seen pretty well how you can do this. And yeah, that's how you can set up a weapon with a mag and random attachments. And now let's do something simple again. Let's do a pistol. Let's take the Glock. So we're going to add the Glock here, spawn it again in cargo, so we don't have to deal with the buggy attachment slot. And this one's going to be a simple one again. We want to add the magazine and spawn it as mag. And was there anything else we could add? Glock, find attachments. So we have an optic we can add. And also a flashlight. Okay, so let's do the optic and also add a battery to it. And the optics should spawn with individual chance. So we always spawn the optic. If you want to have a random chance of spawning the optic, you would have to add this as an item here. otherwise it's not going to work. And now also we had the flashlight. So the flashlight and also with a battery. So we need to go back to our bunker chests, and we should rename this to weapons if we want to have a bit more loot later on in the chest, but for now this is working fine. And we add the item, the Glock, and let's see what happens. We have the Glock with the optic and the flashlight. We could also, let's do a suppressor again. Which one is it? This is the pistol suppressor. We need this pistol suppressor, and we also spawn like 50% of the times. And now when we hit reload, we can see sometimes it has a suppressor, sometimes not. Okay, and now some weapons don't have a magazine. They have an internal magazine like the SKS, and let's quickly do this one too. So the SKS, we select it here and spawn it in cargo again. And now to have ammo in it, we're just going to use the default one. Find attachments. Oh, find attachments, and we see the ammo, which fit in here, and we just select this as a mag, and this should spawn the SKS with ammo inside. And let's check if it works. Yeah, it says it's chambered, and we cannot see how many bullets are in there, but it should be full. We can test it later when we open the chest and then we pick the item. But I also want to spawn some extra ammo. So if we spawn the SKS, I want to spawn some extra ammo. And let's do this by adding a default item again. Find attachments. Let's take the ammo and select the root one. So this is basically the spawn in set to root. So we set this back to cargo. So this is the weapon we are editing. And now we have this one set to root, and we can duplicate it with Control D. So we can spawn 2 extra stacks of ammo when we spawn the SKS. And here you can see we just spawned the 2 extra stacks. So this will only spawn when we have the SKS in here. So if we delete it, it's no longer spawning the extra ammo. So it's only spawning when we spawn the SKS. So let's add the SKS back and then hit reload. And now we have basically set up what we wanted to do. I'm going to show you something else which is pretty useful, the calculate item statistics. And here you can see how many items we're actually spawning. So let's say the AKM is spawning 100% of the times. And now it calculates when we spawn at 10,000 times this preset, it's going to spawn 10,000 AKMs, and the same for the Glocks. And for example, the buttstocks, this is a little more. It spawns it 100% of the times, but it spawns them 1.25 times each. So this is because we had the buttstock attached to the AK-47U. So, and this one is always spawning the buttstock, so that's why we have the chance of 100%, and this is maximum 100. But you can see the 1.25 is telling us it's actually spawning more than 100%, because we also have the AKM, which is spawning 100% of the times, and 25% of this times we have a random buttstock. So this buttstock, this, or this buttstock. So this is spawning more often because we have it on the AK-47 and we have it on the AKM. And same for the batteries. So the batteries are spawning inside the optics and the how they call the light attachments, the universal light, and this one for the pistol. And because we spawn it in here, we actually spawn 30,000 of the batteries when we spawn the preset 10,000 times. Okay, so that's pretty useful sometimes to check if you're messed something up or everything is like it should be. Let's close it again. I think we already saved it. And now our chest config. We have our bunker chest and we already set the preset in here. So don't forget this. So let's check out the chests. We place them in these bunkers here. And let's open it. It requires a key. It's ruined, okay. So let's remove the key for now and save it again so we can instantly open it. And now you can see all our weapons. We have the extra ammo for the SKS, and if I take it to hands, we can see it has all the 10 rounds loaded, one in the chamber and the rest 9 in the internal magazine. And now we might not want to spawn all the weapons at once, so we do one simple thing at the end with our bunker chests. We set the individual chance of all of these weapons to disabled, and now it's going to take one of these weapons instead of all of them, and this also changes our items statistics, but we need to first select this one. And now you can see the AKM spawning 20% of the times, the Glock 20% of the times, M4 20% of the times. Now the battery is also changed and everything is changing accordingly. And when we save this and go to another bunker, we can open it and we can see we got the AK. And in the next chest, you can see we got the M4. So this is how you can only spawn one single weapon. And we can also say, okay, we want to have the Glock spawning a little more often, but the OP AKM we want to spawn a little less, and the M4 too. And we can save it, and when we check our item statistics, we can see we got some very nice numbers, like 12.963% M4, and yeah, you can fine tune it with this one, and also if you need any information, you can always hover over the small little eye and we'll tell you a bit more. And yeah, that's how you can set up weapons. And in the next video, we're going to do a bit more random stuff, like spawning random medical items. I don't know what I'm going to come up with. And yeah, thanks for watching.